Hey guys, today we're at the Gold Trail, the Lush Education Loop, and we're going to be looking at some softwood trees.
And in case you're unsure, softwoods are trees that have needles instead of leaves. These trees here are a balsam fir. You might recognize these as a Christmas tree. Balsam firs have these flat needles that are about 2 centimeters long. If you look at their bark, it's pretty flat bark, except you will notice these bubbles. And if you pop those bubbles with a stick, some sap will come out. You don't want to get that sap on your skin or your clothes, or else you'll smell like Christmas tree and it's really hard to get out. This tree right here is a spruce. There's actually 3 types of spruce, red, black, and white. The differences are so slim that we're not really going to talk about it, especially with the bark. Their needles are about the same length as a fir, but they're round and extend all the way around the stem. If you look at their bark, it has these little flakes you can kind of break off. This tree right here is a cedar. These are really easy to identify because they're so unique. If you look at their leaves that aren't really quite leaves, I don't really know how to describe them, but they have these kind of like different cells that go up and down the stem. If you look at their bark, it's this kind of stringy, fibrous bark. You can peel little strings off. And cedars only grow in wet climates. This tree right here is a white pine. These pines can be identified because if you look at their needles, it's a bundle of about 5 needles that come on this larger bundle of bundles. If you want a neat way to remember the name, white has 5 letters and they have 5 needles. If you look at their bark, it has this sort of lightly ridged bark that's really stiff. And these trees are actually one of the biggest trees you'll find around here. They can live up to around 300 years old. This one isn't that big, but they can get a lot bigger than this. This right here is a better example of a really big white pine. This tree right here is a hemlock tree. These are usually confused with a white pine because of the ridged bark, but hemlock trees have slightly more ridged bark and have a lighter tone to the color of the bark. Their needles are almost like a fir tree, but they're a lot smaller. Another way you can tell this is a hemlock is because these little tiny holes. This is from a yellow belly sapsucker. On the left is a fir, and on the right is a hemlock. Here we are in an old red pine stand. So this right here is a red pine. These trees are usually used as telephone poles because they grow so tall like this. And since they get like that, I couldn't get any green needles, so I have these brown ones. But you can still kind of tell what they're like. They're similarly shaped and have a similar length to a white pine needle, but they only grow in groups of 2. Their barks are kind of like a spruce where you can flick these flakes off. They kind of have a pinkish reddish tinge to them. Here we are on the Redbridge Restoration Project. This right here is a tamarack tree. If you look at their needles, they have these really spread out bundles of about 10 or 12 needles that are very similar to a spruce needle, but they kind of have a lighter tinge to them. If you look at their bark, it's again very similar to a spruce, except it's not as flaky. These trees, like cedars, only grow in wetter climates.
Thanks for watching our video on softwood trees. Hope you learned something. See you next time.